will be presenting Vessel Incident Survival Guide, which I told you guys is about liveaboard. They presented this at Beneath the Sea last year, and it was very well received from what I understand. So they'll give you more information on that. There'll be 2 speakers tonight. It'll be Mike, who's standing in the back, and Barry, who's sitting up here. Mike will start us off, and then Barry will take over. Okay? Welcome, Mike. Thank
you. And the crowd goes wild. So, first of all, and I'm sure Barry would want to say the same thing, thanks for having us tonight. Who here has taken a liveaboard trip somewhere in the world? Oh, good. Most of you. Okay. Well, we're all divers, right? And divers, by their nature, are explorers, right? That's what we love to do, whether it's diving in Tribal Beach, which I've never done, by the way.
So come on the 20th?
Yeah, Tribal Beach.
There you go.
Or whether it's some far-flung location around the world. Divers are explorers. And there really is no better way to explore some of these really remote, pristine, unexplored locations than on a liveaboard, because it maximizes your diving, right? You get multiple dives during the day. You don't have to be shuttling back and forth to the hotel or wherever you're staying. Your hotel is the boat. So there is no better way to explore if you're a diver. However, liveaboards present their own risks, and what Barry's going to be sharing tonight are things that you should be aware of, things that you can do to better prepare yourself should there be some kind of incident on board the boat. A lot of us don't like to think about it, right? We're there to go diving. We're there to have fun, and you know, we kind of put out of our mind that, you know what, that boat might sink. That, you know, boats, there's no unsinkable boat, as they learned on the Titanic. So Barry's going to be talking about a lot of very, I think, useful information. One thing that I like to do when we start this presentation, though, is to make it very clear that while there have been a spate of liveaboard accidents in the past year or 2 or 3, some of them have been very highly publicized in the news and the media. Some have not, but they have happened. Whether it's fires or sinkings or whatever, there has been loss of life, there have been tragedies. We're not here to bash the liveaboard industry. In fact, I go back to what I said at the very beginning. There's no better way to do some of the diving that we all love to do. But the best liveaboard trip is the one that you walk away from. And so what Barry's going to do is help you prepare should there be some kind of incident. Am I doing something wrong?
No, there's chats coming up. I just want to see what they say.
You're probably telling me to look at the camera.
No, there's no
When
nothing
you look
like
away
that.
from the computer, they can't hear your voice.
It's something like that, I
Right.
guarantee it. Anyway, so without further ado, I'll let Barry take you through the bulk of this presentation. But again, this is about helping all of us be better prepared should there be some kind of incident. As you'll see, Barry put an awful lot of work into developing this. It was very well received at Beneath the Sea. Dima invited Barry to come down and present, where is it, Orlando? In Orlando in November. So there's a tremendous amount of interest in this, and I hope you're going to find it useful. So Barry.
Larry, before you start,
Sure.
I don't know how many of you know him. He's the president of the Long Island Diving Association. Probably you never heard of them because it's not so much that he comes to Nassau County, they're more into Suffolk County. So in front of you, I want to ask you that Lyra get involved with us the same way you can get involved with people on the other side of the world, meaning Long Island. And maybe like the cleanup on September 20, Lyra can invite people to help us into the cleanup, and maybe we can see you more, and we know that you're not from the east side, but you're also from the east and west.
Email me the the event. I know we're at a wedding, right, the 20th of September?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah, of
But,
course, sorry.
we'll put it out there. I do encourage the dive clubs and dive stores to give us their information. We put it out to our.
But I know
social
that
media.
you get more involved with the people on the east side, and I want you to get more involved with the people from the west side.
I
So that's
was,
why I stopped
and
you
then
before
Governor-
you started.
And then Governor Cuomo got in trouble. I lost my contact for out west.
Oh, okay. But anyway, so thank you for coming, we appreciate you being here with all of us, and I want everybody to know who you are,
No, I appreciate
because
that
I
very
know
much.
people don't know about you.
Yeah, Long Island Divers Association is a non-profit organization. We're sort of the umbrella for all the Long Island dive stores, dive shops, dive boats. And we represent Long Island and part of New York City as well. And insofar as getting involved with areas that are west of Suffolk County, we try to. You know, most of us do live in Suffolk County, but if there's anybody that wants to work with us from Nassau County, that would be a big help, for sure. I mean, I wasn't kidding when I said I worked directly face-to-face with Governor Cuomo, and that's how you got the 12-mile reef out there. It was my meeting with him on the bow of a vessel when we were doing the artificial reef work. And he actually asked me, what is it that divers want? And I said, I want a reef that's 12 miles out at 130 feet. And 2 weeks later, I got it. That's how fast he reacted to me. The next thing I asked him for was a ship that was 300-something feet long. I said, but I know that's just pie in the sky, it'll be too costly. And he looked at me and said, you let me worry about that. That was great. Then he got in trouble. Okay, so on lighter, one of our main missions, or part of our mission, is education. That's part of our mission, including trying to preserve divers' rights and gain diver access. But education is what this is about tonight. And this is probably the most educational presentation we've ever done. Because this has a lot of meaning to it, a lot of relevance to it. There is going to be some audience participation. So I'm going to be looking for volunteers, of which who I will choose when you become a volunteer, because I need a little bit of help doing part of this. I don't know if they're going to be able to see it on this, but I got to move it around a little bit.
Okay.
So we'll do the best we can on
I
it.
said
They're not-
volunteer
they're
and you left.
Right. They don't have to see you long as they can hear.
Okay. So let me get a feel for the audience. So how many of you actually been diving on a liveaboard? Including my wife. She's on this. Well, that's great. Okay, now some of you have not. All right, because this is very applicable to liveaboards. How many of you have ever been on a cruise ship and you stayed overnight? Okay, it's probably most everybody now. Okay, now I got a really tough question for you. How many of you have ever slept in a hotel at night? This is all applicable. This is not just about diving. Almost everything I talk about tonight has to do with any of these things I just mentioned. Sleeping overnight someplace, including, has anybody here ever slept at home? Same kind of thing. All right, so who's been in a hotel, let's say in the last 2 weeks, slept overnight? Anybody here in the last 2 weeks? Okay, do you remember where it was?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you left your room, where was the stairway when you left? To the left or the right of your room?
Eventually to the right.
To the right. So
Got to
that's
go down 2 corridors.
2 corridors. Do you remember how many doors there were before you got to the stairway?
So you can live. Well, was guests?
Yeah, guest rooms between you and the stairway.
One on the right, one on the left would be 2.
Just 2 between you and the stairway. Okay,
Goes the hallway where the elevators were.
I'm sorry?
Hallway, elevators, and stairway.
Okay, so if there was a smoked out condition for whatever reason, you got out in the hallway, you couldn't see, would you go to the stairs or the elevator?
Stairs.
Go to the floor.
Okay, go to the floor, that's part of it, you're gonna see that in here. Does everybody understand where I'm going with this? This is where you come into a condition, you're on a vessel, you're in a hotel, you're in your own house. How do you get out? Where do you go out? That's gonna be a big part of what we're gonna be talking about here today. So, about a year ago now, as we go through the time, there's been a lot of news, as Mike has been speaking, and you've been reading on magazines probably with diving. Outside of this country, mostly, but not exclusively, there's been a lot of tragedy with regards to liveaboards. There's been certain vessels that have had sinkings inversions, collisions, all kinds of problems. There's been a number of fatalities. So does anybody here know Captain Steve Belinda?
Yes.
Okay. Captain Steve Belinda is probably 88, 89 years old. Anybody ever hear of the Wahoo? The vessel, the Wahoo? Okay. He's the owner, he's the builder, he's the captain. Okay, he's obviously retired. He lives on Long Island, and I talk to him very often. We're very good friends. We were chatting about the issues that are going on, especially overseas, with the tragedy of these liveaboards. And you know, what's causing them, what is all this about, and how do we educate divers in order for them to be able to help themselves escape a situation that may occur. So that's where this all started from. And then, of course, those from Leiter, including Lilana, because she was with us up until last year, got involved with putting this whole thing together. But if you read this here, there's something that Americans, or people from America, think, that when they go someplace, no matter where it is, somebody else is in charge, somebody else is responsible, and somebody else is liable. So if something ever happens to you, so what? I'll just go after them. Guess what? That is not reality. This whole presentation is not about liability. It's about survivability. That's what this is. Because, read this right here, you're responsible for your own safety and well-being. And trust me, if something happens, especially out of this country, that's the only sentence that's going to apply to get you out of there. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Where's Mike? There you are. Okay. Good. All right, so this actually didn't start last year with me personally. I worked in the Florida Keys in 1974 and 1975 as a dive master. I was on a 65-foot boat and we were diving all day long. I think we would go out 2 or 3 times a day, doing a tremendous amount of diving. I worked for a company called Carl Gage Dive Shop in Key Largo and Dover for Islamorada. So Carl Gage had a son named Rick Gage. Who else? Who has heard of the wreck of the Etosha? Mel Gibson was looking for the Etosha and all the gold that was going on down the Florida Keys in the 1970s. Mel Fisher eventually opened up a museum down there and they sell all the gold pieces because eventually they found the wreck of the Etosha. Well, anyway, they were doing literally hundreds, if not thousands of dives. They had several boats, or if you want to call them boats, that the divers would go out on, and they go looking for the wreck and the gold of the Etosha. They predicted it was worth millions and millions of dollars, and it was. So those boats would go out and they would dive all day, sleep on a boat, dive again, going round and round. So at one particular time, one of the vessels that went out, this one, had Mel Fisher's son and daughter-in-law, and Rick Gage, the son of the owner of who I worked for, and a bunch of other people on this thing. This boat here would always leak, the bilge pumps would come on, the water would come out, and everything is fine, except one night it wasn't. So the bilge filled up with water, the vessel in the middle of the night inverted, and those 3 I mentioned all died. All right? Now you got 3 divers who had probably hundreds, if not thousands of dives. And not only that, but they were diving every day. So it's not like they dove one day and dove 12 weeks later. They were diving. These are very experienced divers. I know Rick, he was like in perfect shape, this typical Florida Keys kind of guy. And he could get out of anything, but he couldn't. So I was there at this time. I think I just left and came back to New York. So, it was always on my mind what happened that day and what occurred. And then last year, Captain Belinda and I are talking, and right away I think about this. So this all ties together. Good? There it is. Okay, key points. So divers, if you're going out overnight onto a vessel, cruise ship, hotel, whatever it may be, you should prepare for some type of emergencies. There are unexpected incidents that occur that can cause you to get injuries or fatalities, even worse. And the fastest, most beneficial thing you could do is do things very, very fast. So now, Steve Belinda was in Florida when I first gave this presentation. I said, Steve, you gotta come up, you're doing this with me. Let's, you put it together with me, you gotta come up. And he says, I can't. I said, all right, Steve, with all your experience, and the people know him in California. I mean, Steve is like one of probably the most famous boat captain for diving in the United States. Steve, give me a quote. I want something from you that is very, very pointed and specific to what you recommend people do if there's ever an incident on a vessel. And this is Steve's message to you. Yes, remember that, because everything is about the stopwatch. From the time the incident starts, the best thing to do is to get out as fast as you can. That's his message, and he stuck to it, because I still talk to him all the time about it. So what we end up with on these type of incidents is fire. You may recall there's an incident in the United States in California where we lost 32 divers, okay? Sinking, the vessels sink. Collisions, running aground, inversions. Inversions could very well be the worst because now everything is upside down or 90 degrees out. So these are the types of things that have been going on in other places of which, you need to be concerned about. So nothing's important until it is. That's one of the phrases you probably heard before. In the middle of the night, I was in Australia this year. I was in Australia this year. I went to a Heron Island, which is about 80 kilometers in the middle of the ocean. So we take this long ferry boat, get onto this island to go diving. And one night I walked out on the pier, and I looked out into the ocean, and I realized I cannot see anything. I mean, nothing. Granted, it was a cloudy night, but it was just completely dark. I realized just how dark it can get when you're on a liveaboard in the middle of the ocean. And that's something to always keep in mind. You cannot see anything when you go out that far. If you're on a boat and the lights go out, the generator goes out, the power goes out, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be that total darkness. And if the boat shifts or tilts sideways, how are you going to know which way is up, down, sideways? The ceiling becomes the floor, the walls become the ceiling, and that's always potentially possible there. And trying to navigate out of there, I'm going to show you tonight. But that's something to think about. So, before I go any further, I didn't do this by myself, and I was not going to do a presentation unless I was factually correct on every single thing that I say tonight. So I went to experts. Okay, I went to Captain Steve Belinda. You got his words. That was about as best you could tell. But I did go to people from the United States Navy, the United States Coast Guard, Merchant Marine Academy, and the Fire Department of New York. I'm a firefighter, so I went to some of my friends who are officers, and I said, I want something from you that we could practice together, that I could show you on how to survive an incident in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the night. I'm going to show that to you tonight. So I want to make sure I acknowledge who those were that helped me put this thing together with my staff. Okay, so, can you hand those out? Mm-hmm. So Leiter went through the expense of putting together a card, which every one of you are familiar with.
Nice.
I see them right here. Everybody knows what these are, right? For underwater, dive instructors use these, right? So we kind of stole the idea, and we made up permanent cards for you, we're handing them out right now, that you could use forever, which are going to be the objectives and some description of what we're talking about tonight. So you can refer to those tonight as I'm talking. This way, when I give you a test, you can use it as a cheat sheet. Let's just read through these objectives quickly. Good. Yeah. So this is the objectives of the presentation tonight. Morning. You got it? Okay. The first objective: what items individuals should bring with them from home before you even leave to help them escape a vessel, especially during an unanticipated nighttime emergency. Second objective: what everyone should do and look for when they first come aboard the vessel. First thing. Next, what steps individuals should take when they first board a vessel to prepare themselves for an unexpected emergency. Number 4, how individuals can escape a vessel that is on fire, sinking, or inverted during the daytime or the nighttime. I'm going to show you how to do that. Steps individuals should take to save themselves after they reach the outside, the enclosed areas of vessel during an emergency, once you get outside there. Okay, so those are the objectives of what we're going to talk about tonight. So who pays attention to airline briefings? Get in an airplane, flight attendants start talking. How many of you just put your head down and just get on your cell phone and pay no attention to what's going on? Know where the exits are? Excuse me?
Depends on how long you've been flying.
Well, every time you get on a plane, there's a different seat, different number, different exits, locations, goes back to the hotel, how many seats before the exit kind of thing. You gotta remember, you're responsible for yourself. Many times when there's an incident, the flight attendants get hurt first, and they're not helpful to help you. You've got to do it yourself. So I have a question for you. All right, go to the next one. Orientation. Get on a plane, walk around the vessel, wherever you may be, look around, and look at what would happen if that whole room you're in starts turning sideways, turning upside down, gets blacked out. How are you going to get out of there? Again, the floor may become the wall may become the ceiling, it may be completely different. Mainly, we're going to talk about a lot today is the exits. How do you get out of the vessel? Where's the second exit? There's not just one, there should be 2 of them. There's got to be alternate doors, hatches or something. Learn and know where they are. And communicating with the crew, hopefully they speak English. Okay, that's always an issue as well. Go to the next one. Think about these things. We can fight fires, we can fight terrorism. I can tell you right now, you cannot fight water. It's almost impossible. You cannot fight water, you gotta work with it. Those vessels that we were all told cannot sink. If you take a look at them, the Titanic, remember? Unsinkable. You know where it is right now, right? It's at the bottom of the ocean. We've got the Asian that went down actually about a year ago. Remember that big, giant sailboat? What was it, $80 million or something with all those extremely wealthy people? Unsinkable. It's no longer at the bottom because of 2 weeks ago they brought it finally up at the top. But that sank. Millions of dollars in lives were lost in both of those. Then we had the Sea Story, November of 2024. That's not too long ago. Sea Story is a complete disaster. I think there's 11 diver fatalities on there. I didn't really want to focus on that tonight, but I have to bring that one up because it's so bad. We're going to look at some of those things there. When you go out there, I like to use this as an example. So if I take this here, you're the latecomer, so you're the first volunteer. You take that. Okay. So what did I just do with that description of what I just did for you? What do you think I'm trying to, what's the message I'm trying to give to you by giving that to you?
You are ready to play ball.
Balls in your court.
Balls in my court.
Say it again.
He said my balls in my court.
The ball's in his court.
I agree with him.
You remember that. You get on a vessel and something happens, like one of the things I just described. The ball is in your court. You're responsible for yourself. Your fellow divers, yes. But if you think the staff's going to come and help you, it's probably not going to happen. It'd be great if they do, but don't rely upon it. You're responsible for yourself. The ball's in your court. And I did that so you get a visual of it, and hopefully you'll remember that forever, because that's really, really very, very important. Okay, Chris? So this is a Sea Story. This is the vessel I told you about. Take a look at this thing. It's absolutely gorgeous. Really pretty. Obviously, there was a fire. That's why the picture's there. But if you see this vessel, this is not what it used to look like. It used to be some type of a fishing trawler. And they said, we can make a lot more money by putting divers on there instead of as a fishing trawler. So if we look at the next photograph, who would not want to go on that? But before, it used to be this high. Then they added this. So if you know anything or you're aware of anything with regards to marine engineering, the entire vessel needs to be engineered. You just don't add things to it. So the draft, which is the point from where the waterline is down to the keel, is built and designed to handle what's above. And if the superstructure has been increased, then you gotta change the draft. And it's a big engineering type of thing. Of course, they didn't do that. They just said, this is the way to do it. We get a whole bunch of bunks in there, we get a whole bunch of divers from the United States, but they were from all over the world. And we'll keep sticking them in there and making a whole bunch of money. And this has been a habit. This is what's been going on at a lot of places. Not the good ones, like Mike was saying, but there are others. And this is what they do. So,
Where were they?
a lot of these things, most of these things are happening in the Red Sea. That's where most of this stuff is happening.
That's where they happened to be.
So this is part of the audience participation. So on a count of three, I want everybody to do this. And I want you to blow really hard when I give you a count of three. I want everybody to do really hard. Ready? 1, 2, 3. That's what just happened.
That's so fast.
It came right over. So as soon as they got hit with a strong wind on the broadside, this thing flips over, divers are all trapped in there. Some were lucky enough to get out, and a lot of them were not. And some of them were there for, I think, 4 days, and they finally got them out of there. And you're gonna see some of the witness statements of what they saw and what they experienced when they were there. But this is buyer beware. Okay, know what you're getting into. But this is what's been going on in a lot of cases. And I got this firsthand from the Red Sea, others that are living there. So I know exactly what's happening. Okay, okay, stopwatch again, time. Remember what Steve Belinda said, everything has to do with time. The time it starts, you need to act very quickly. That's really, time is of the essence. The stopwatch is gone. I will tell you this, as a firefighter as well, and water rescue lieutenant. Out there, the fire department's not coming for you, the police are not coming for you, and by the time the Coast Guard comes, it's probably 4 to 8 hours later. You are on your own. Ball's in your court. So keep that in mind. Okay, if you look at your cards, if you want to, this way you have to write anything down. The objectives. The first thing, what individuals should bring from their home. So the first thing we have is your travel insurance. And I'm going to show you in the next, that takes us the next 2 slides, why you need travel insurance. And the second thing is to copy all your documents and email them to yourself and to your friends. Copy your documents like, you know, your passports, your driver's license, your cards. Email them, because if they're lost on the boat, especially this guy, you're not leaving. They won't let you out of the country. They don't care what you just went through. So make sure you make photocopies of all those really important documents. So where do you do that? From your house before you leave.
Sir,
I got a question.
go ahead.
Yeah, so getting back to the other boat. So you're a diver, you're going on the boat. Don't you have a right to assume that the boat has met code?
Go back to the very first thing I said. It's
Yeah,
not about liability.
No, for this reason. You're saying the boat was defectively constructed, is that right?
It's not engineered the way it should.
Right, okay. So how is a diver to know if the boat is correctly constructed? They have to assume that it is. So it's not a question of liability, it's a question of survivability, because if it's not correctly constructed, then either A, you don't go on the boat, or B, you have to make provisions in case something does happen. But getting to the first point, how are you supposed to know otherwise?
Okay, I asked that question before I even gave the first presentation, because I knew that was going to come up. So one of the things is cost. Like one of the dive boat operators said to me, if it's real cheap, there's something wrong. That's always a sign, because they're not cheap on the really good ones. The other one is for the most part, at Beneath the Sea, DEMA, and these other big conferences, those dive operations are usually really top of the line. It's the ones that, like anything else, you're finding something, you know, online that just doesn't seem right. That's about the only answer I can give you, because unless you know engineering of a vessel, you're not gonna know the real answer to it. But the big thing that the dive operators told me about from the Red Sea directly were the cost. The real cheap ones, that's what they're doing. It's the best answer I can get for you, but that's probably a real telltale sign. It's a great bargain, I'm gonna go. Why is it a great bargain? Because they're stuffing people into these rooms, and it didn't cost them very much to build the boat. That's the answer.
Barry,
I
the other
anticipate
thing
that.
is talk to your diver friends, because
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
have
people
friends
have
too.
gone on other boats, and you can, you know, get information from those people on how well the boat is, what kind of trills they have, how safe do they feel on that. And like you said, when you go to these other venues, like Beneath the Sea or these other conferences, you could tell the ones that are pretty up there. You know, you look at their booths and how much money they spend in there, and you know, it's the top ones, like Aggressor. There's a lot of big ones out there, so those are the ones you want to target.
You got a question also?
Yes, sir. When you, with the photographs of the IDs and stuff like that, most places, law enforcement want to take a photo of an ID, coming across property or anything like that.
I know, but that's the alternative.
You
You know,
can
if you
take a
don't have-
photograph of your passport, at least you have your number, your expiration date, and all that information, and you can get a passport made more quickly
Yes.
with having that information.
I want to see a little bit more of that too. Okay, Chris. So personal equipment, this is really important. This is a waterproof bag. We can call it a ditty bag. It's waterproof, whatever you want to call it. One of the most important lessons is keep this attached right next to where you're sleeping. And inside here are all of your important things. A flashlight actually should be attached to you at all times when you're on a vessel, and a knife. So we have a flashlight that's waterproof, and a knife, and I just used a big one so you can see it, that you also should have with you. But inside of here would be, if you're allowed to keep, your passport, your credit cards, your jewelry, go right down the list here, we've got any kind of travel documents, money, compass, survival things that you're gonna grab within 2 seconds when you're running out the door like Captain Belinda told you. Keep it in here. If you wanna put this in the safe during the daytime, that's fine. But while you're sleeping, your alarm goes off, you know what's going on, you grab this and you go. You don't go looking around for things in the middle of the night. This is what it's all about, just putting it all inside of here.
Would you recommend meds?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Meds?
Oh yeah, medications, yeah, they're
No,
on
no.
those cards that are there. Yeah, the next cards are there. Very important. This is the thing that people get stuck inside, like the Bejon, that multi-million-dollar vessel. They didn't know what to do. They had no clue what to do, because there are witnesses that have said they just were scrambling in their rooms, probably trying to find their important documents or whatever, and then they got caught up, the water came in, and that was the end of it. Had they just grabbed this and ran and listened to Captain Steve Belinder, maybe they would have survived. Sea story, this is the one. Can you guys read this? So let's go back to the very first thing I was saying. You ready for this? I'm gonna read it to you. This is what the guy, these are from survivors. I had nothing to do, they're all quotations. I couldn't believe this when I read this. The first thing they said was, you are the Swiss case, meaning he's a survivor, he's this person from Switzerland, I guess. Your father's credit card is not high enough. You need to make a bank transfer. If not, we won't let him go. He was stuck inside the vessel for 4 days before he was rescued. And that's what he was confronted with when he got on land, wherever that was, in the Red Sea. As ridiculous as it is, you still need to get out of that. So again, passport copy and everything else copied, so at least you have access to the data that you need to replace whatever it is you need. Very, very important. That's the reason why that. But take a look at what some of the witnesses said here. you know, it sank in less than 10 minutes, but I know for sure they didn't get there for 6 to 8 hours to Coast Guard. So you were on your own. We couldn't see anything. I didn't know when I was walking on the floor or the ceiling. Couldn't find the handle to the door. There's no batteries, no life vests. There's no emergency drills to prepare them. Insufficient number of life rafts. Cabin doors are locked. The life jackets were a mess. These are all the things that were on one vessel. And you can incur any one of these possibly on any vessel that you may enter. So these are things to be heads up to. And in answer to your question, if I saw these things when I first got on the vessel, I would have to make that decision whether or not I wanted to stay, money lost or not, when I first got on there. Okay, Chris? So the second objective, what everybody should do and look for when they first come aboard a vessel. You should be introduced for at least an hour by the crew on a safety briefing. Everything about the vessel that you should know about, putting on life jackets, where the exits are, where the escape routes are, the safety devices, fire extinguishers, all of that. If they don't give you a safety briefing, then you know right away something is really wrong. You guys know Dan Orr? He invented Divers Alert Network. So I was having dinner with him at Beneath the Sea, and he said, he went on a vessel 2 or 3 years ago, and they gave like an hour and a half talk, safety talk when they first started. He said, I was on the vessel this year, and he was astonished. He said, there was no safety talk. He says, I don't know what's going on. He said, just something of experience, you know, that somebody, that experienced it himself. The meeting points. Everybody should know if there's an emergency, we all should meet at this muster point, they call it, so that you get further directions on what to do. Stay on the vessel, abandon the vessel, there's a ship coming, or whatever that may be, should know what that is. If there's a language problem, you should address it right away before you were encountering something like that. Smoke and CO detectors. I don't know about you all, but I bring one of these things every time I go on a boat and every time I go in a hotel. As a firefighter, I can tell you this is what saves lives. Because when they don't go off and you're sleeping, you're not going to wake up. It's not that the fire is going to burn you, the smoke is going to kill you. So bring your own. This is a multi, thing. Put the batteries in, stick it in the ceiling somewhere. And how much room could this take in your luggage, right? This is a big one. I bring it even to the hotels. Because unless you're at a really fancy place, you don't know if they're changing the batteries or they're wired in directly, the right way.
Is that a CO2 aerosol?
Yep, CO, carbon monoxide. And test it, push the button, which I'm not gonna do here today, then the dogs are gonna go crazy.
He's been used to the compressor and all sorts of noises because he has a pup.
I noticed that when the air tanks bled out, he was really good about that. My dog completely freaks out. First aid equipment. Ask them, let me see your first aid equipment. Now, you look at it, if you know what you're looking at, take a look. Anytime I get to where there's an area with a first aid kit, I open it up and I look inside. I went to ski patrol in Vermont. Every year I open up all the first aid kits. I study them again, make sure I know where everything is. Any kind of first responder type of situation, I always study them. Okay, I know what I got. I know what on an airplane one time, I had an emergency. I had them open up every one of the first aid kits. Captain got in big trouble, but I was able to save the little kid. So look at what's in there. Now, if you're not first aid trained, get together with your friends and find out who is. So if something should happen.
Oh.
There you go. Good. That's going to be the next class. The next thing is to ask the staff, who's got first aid training? And see if it's above putting on Band-Aids. Are you CPR trained? AED trained? Those kind of things. Ask them, because if they're not, then again, get together with everybody on the boat and say, who's trained here medically in case of an emergency? So you know who to go to. So if everybody's closed in their rooms, you know which room to knock on. They're always knocking on my room. Make sure there's oxygen. You're diving. I don't need to go into a dive class here. You need O2 on the vessel. Here's a big one. If there's a diver in trouble, they come up and they can't get to the boat. Everybody stands around and goes, what am I supposed to do, if anything? So find out if the staff is trained and will go in the water to go retrieve somebody. Mask, fins, and snorkel or less. capable of going out and grabbing somebody to pull them in. Because if they're not, then you better be ready to do it if you are capable of doing that. Or somebody in your group should be capable of going after somebody and pulling them back to the boat. I've seen that happen a lot of times, 'cause I've been on the boats a lot. And I've seen where this, they usually have the staff does it, but they'll go out and get somebody. When I was in the Florida Keys, I did it every single day, but that was back before certification cards were required to go on boats. So that does happen, so the question is, instead of all standing around while the person's drowning,